So what do you know? It just so happens I don't normally walk the perimeter of the manor house, but you never know what you're going to see. A new little patch of wildflowers, or a new family of rabbits is living under one of the sheds, or some groundhog got killed by a hawk. And it's just beautiful. The sounds. It's gorgeous to walk the perimeter of the manor house. It's so big and vast for sitting right in the middle of a town. It's as if you're in your own estate, of course, your own regal estate, but it's like you're in your own little world. And you haven't been exploring your world for a while, so when you do, you saw something new. So I was out at the back end of the manor house property. While I was out there, the producer shows up. He talks to the man. When I come back to the house, I'm just feeling light as a feather because it's just such a beautiful thing. And he starts hitting me right away with the producer was here, and I was like, oh, God bless the producer. What did that idiot want? Says he came in to introduce the new rider, and I could tell by the man's expression this was not going to be good. I mean, whew. I thought he was joking when he said the other day he was going to bring in a new rider. Now he thinks we're going to get some views, I guess. The man was shaking his head and was already drinking bourbon. He wasn't messing around with nothing. It was kind of early in the day for him to be hitting the bourbon, but he was drinking bourbon. I knew we were probably in some kind of trouble because when you add a new element, it never seems to work out. It's like getting a fifth Beatle, you know? It's like whatever. A third wheel. So tricycle. I'd like to have a tricycle. The man once said he never had a tricycle when he was a kid. I felt sorry for him. I said, well, they were afraid it would tip it over all the time. They got him a four-cycle. So he had a four-cycle. It was a pedal around a four-cycle for oxygen deprivation. Kids, it was better that way for him. So I said, what gives? What's up with the rider? And the man's like, holy shit, it's a woman. And right away I could tell the man had already freaking gotten smitten and was 2 seconds away from falling in love. Falling in love with the new rider girl. The new rider girl, I said, how young? He says, well, she was a young rider girl once. She crashed and burned. Her career fell apart, but now she's making a comeback. She's starting with us. So, don't call it a comeback, folks. It's a continued failure. It's a continued failure over here. It's hilarious. But, she wasn't that young, so to speak. She was like 42, 43, 44, right in the man's wheelhouse. So I knew it would be a very, very short period of time. So anyways, I said, well, how'd it go? What'd she say? What was she like? And he says, I think she's just going to try to take over. I was like, oh, God bless. God bless. So anyways, the man looks at me and he says, the phone had rang. It rang again. And, so the man had to take this call. But, hey, I got to take care of something here real quick. What's going on? No problem at all. Bye. Yeah, I'm sorry, dog. I was going to explain to you how, what I'm saying? This woman was coming across. Anyway, she says, first things ever mouth, she says, I got a bunch of great ideas. Like we could do this riff. Like I listen to your podcast all the time. I think I'm that single woman in here. I honestly think I was this. And I said, oh, gosh, the man continued to quote the writer girl. And he says, so she says, she comes up with this thing like, hey, we should do this bit where it's so funny, like in the movies and on sitcoms, everybody's got money, but nobody ever works. You're like, God bless this old biker chick, she was rode hard and put up wet, right? And she was a Hell's Angel girl, and now she's retired to a cabin in the foothills of some summit mountains in California. How's she affording California real estate? What was she, inheritor? Plus, she looks like $1 million for a 50-year-old woman. 60-year-old woman, she looks like she could be 38. She's gorgeous. So how, a biker chick? So I told her, I was like, I don't, I didn't think I liked that idea that much. So get this. The next thing she says is, all right then, how about in the movies and on sitcoms, there's all these old dudes, right? And they're like 75 years old. They're kind of thin. They meet a younger lady. Right away, they go back to the apartment. They can bang, right? How's this guy going to pop a bone? He's 75 years old. They just had a light meal. Come on, Unless he's like shaking the Viagra and like down the Viagra. They never mention the Viagra. He's just like, hey, okay, There's nothing. And the man's like, oh, the man, he told me. So I was like, hey, It hit right in the quick. I was like, I don't think this is a good idea. She's making Viagra jokes. I'm a Viagra kind of guy. So what am I, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think this is going to work. I don't think a 41-year-old younger than that's mentally, young girl writer is going to gel. I looked at the man. I was like, you might have something. I don't know. I don't know what we should do about it. I was just so happy. I just took a lovely little beautiful walk around the expansive, property of the manor house, and it clicked right in my head. I was like, you know what? It's a beautiful thing. I might live a couple extra years. That'd be like 16 extra dog years. I mean, maybe we got to earn a little income. Maybe we got to do something. Maybe we got to change with the times. Maybe we've got to broaden the base. Maybe we got to expand, or we're going to lose the manor house. The man's like, yeah, well, she starts talking about, how when you're an old dude, you meet somebody, you're not going to get a little stir and stare in the groin area and everything. You're going to be, ooh, I got to hit this. And you're like, you got to get your Viagra first, then you can look at her butt. So it's like worthless to even look at her butt until you have a Viagra floating around your system. It kind of made me, it was a little off-putting. But he said, the man looked at me. So I'll say this, though. She mentioned as she was leaving, she was a big Bob Dylan fan, So I was like, yeesh. And right then and there I knew, as an idiotic, stupid dog, the man was already in love.